All right, so in the last video, we talked about what it means to live well. We touched base on things like mindfulness, meditation, compassion, gratitude, just all the things that I think most of us would agree go into just a good life. Beyond the things like wealth and fame and adoration and just all the stuff that we're told is going to make our lives better, but none of which really seems to work. So over the next few videos, we're going to look at those more specifically, just kind of dig into them and see just how they help us, how they encourage us to live well and to live a life that we're happy with. And we're going to start with meditation because I really think that if you don't have some kind of grasp on your mind, if you don't have the ability to keep your mind in one place, you can't do anything else. You cannot maintain gratitude because the mind is always going to be jumping to everything that's going wrong. You can't be mindful because the mind's going to pull you to the past and the future. You can't have compassion because the mind is always going to be seeing how somebody got over on you or somebody screwed you over. So being able to bring the mind to one place and keep it there and to just be aware of your mind, that's really, really important if you're going to try to live any kind of good life. Without it, it's like trying to build a house. It's like building the most beautiful house in the world on a cracked foundation. Like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what you do. You can have just the best wallpaper and like really nice tile, and you can pick your color scheme, and you can have one of those really cool like tile roofs. It doesn't matter because the whole thing's going to fall down. And that's what happens if we can do everything else in our life. If we don't get our mind right, then it's like rearranging furniture on the Titanic is what we're doing at that point. So, I think that's important to do at the beginning is to address all the reasons people tell me they can't meditate. And number one is people say, well, I just can't clear my mind. Nobody can clear their mind. That's not a thing. We all have a bunch of thoughts. We all think that we have more thoughts than everybody else has. But from what I understand, we all have like 60,000 thoughts a day. We all have very busy minds, and this is probably made worse by things like social media and Netflix and just all the distraction and entertainment that we have now. But just suffice it to say, we all have a bunch of thoughts. This isn't new or unique. And luckily, meditation's not about not having thoughts. It's about learning to recognize when you're lost in thought and come back to something, to some object of meditation. It can be your breath. It can be something you're looking at. It can be a sound. It can be your whole body. It can be one part of your body. It can be all sorts of stuff. But it's about learning to come back. You can't learn to come back if you never get distracted. And so that's what thoughts do. And then the other thing is people tell me they don't have time. Man, read the statistics on how much time we spend on Instagram and Facebook and doom scrolling the news and watching The Office for the upteenth time. Like, we have time. We can all get up 10 minutes earlier if something really matters to us. And so I think what we have to talk about now is, why is meditation worth training yourself, and why is it worth rearranging your schedule to do if you have to? And it really does all come back to the things that I've already mentioned. Learning to recognize your mind, learning to recognize that you are not your mind, that you are not your thoughts, is huge. Like, it's really strange that we have this voice in our head. I like to wonder, like, the first time a person had a thought, like, it had to freak them out. It had to be the weirdest thing they'd ever experienced. And I often wonder, a lot of the talk, a lot of the stuff we read in old books and stuff about spirits being everywhere, I wonder how much of that was actually like thoughts. I saw, it was a meme one time, this girl, I guess she went to her psychiatrist because she had this voice in her head, and she was stunned to learn that this voice, like, everybody has it. Like, we want to laugh at that because we're all used to having thoughts all the time, but I think the question could be is, why do we have this incessant narrative in our head? Especially when it's so useless a lot of the times. I noticed that just this morning I was looking for my car keys to come up here to the office, and I'm asking myself in my head, okay, they're not there. Where did I put them? Where was the last place I had them? And then I found them, and I thought, oh, there they are. Who am I telling? Why? I know I'm looking for my keys. I can just look for them. I don't need this narration in my head telling me what's going on. But we do this all the time. If it's neutral, cool. But the thing is that we're often doing it in a way that's not helpful to us. We're running a narrative about our partner and how they don't help enough. We're running a narrative about how society sucks, or how our leadership sucks, or how just everything sucks. This is not a helpful way to live. Once you become aware of that, it becomes easier to start to kind of deconstruct it. It becomes easier to start to sort of ignore it. A lot of the things that pop in my head, what I end up having to say to them is just, hey, thanks for sharing. The mind is not the enemy, but it's always throwing things out there to see what gets traction. And what normally gets traction are the things that are not helpful to us. Complaints, criticisms, things that went wrong in the past, worries about the future. And if we're not careful, we're going to dwell in stress and worry all the time, because that's what the mind angles towards. We'll do a whole video about that later. We'll talk about how the mind being wired for survival, it leans us towards being anxious, because a happy mind is not very beneficial to survival. An anxious mind is going to keep you alive, but you're going to be freaking miserable. So meditation, learning to come back to one thing over and over and over, it kind of helps our mind understand that, hey, being right here, right now is okay. It's just that it's not real natural to us. And so when people ask me why meditate, it's for that. It's to be able to be right here, right now, without having to just bow to the stream of thoughts that are always plaguing us. It's about learning to find peace in this moment. And it's about using the mind for what it's for. It's about letting the mind be a tool that we use for necessary things. If I am going to, if I'm going to go buy a new car, and I'm looking at a Corvette, that's probably not the best thing, because I got a wife, I got kids, I go to Home Depot a lot, I like to build things. A Corvette's not helpful in those. The mind's going to be really helpful with that. If I'm looking at the monthly payment, the mind is going to be useful to say, oh, you can't afford that. But the mind doesn't stop there. It's going to start complaining. Oh, I wish if I didn't have kids, I could have a Corvette. Oh, if I should just make a lot more money and pay people to do my work for me. Why do things have to cost so much? Everything is so expensive. I'm sure it didn't cost this much to make this car. And just dumb shit like that doesn't help anybody. The mind does that. It tries to read other people's minds. It tries to make guesses about the future. It tries to rewrite the past. All of those things are not only pointless, but they're detrimental to us. They lower the quality of our life. So being able to step away from those things when we want to is one of the primary reasons to meditate. And it's maybe the main way that meditation helps us live well.